So, Asa, remind people what happened to Ali, or Ali, you can speak for yourself as well. What happened in January of this year, and what's happening
Well,
now?
ch- maybe
And what's happening
well,
now?
ch- maybe I'll just say what happened
Yeah.
very briefly, and then makes sense for Asa to tell people what developments have happened recently. But as many people will know, I was invited to Zurich, Switzerland last January to talk about the genocide in Gaza by local groups there. And before I had the opportunity to speak, I was abducted off the street very violently by plainclothes police, taken to prison and held there for 3 days, and then taken in handcuffs in a cage to the airport, put on a plane, and expelled. At no time was I given any coherent explanation for why this was done. It was done in complete violation of my rights and in violation of Swiss law and the European Convention on Human Rights. And I've talked about that previously on the live stream. So we have an episode from, I think, February this year,
Yeah.
where I talk about that in detail. But that, in brief, is what happened.
Yeah, we had a whole special live stream on that at the very end of January. I'm sure a lot of you will remember, and it was for us and for Ali especially. It was quite a harrowing weekend, and we were all glad to see him back. But this last week, a Swiss parliamentary investigation into Ali's detention in January concluded there was a series of irregularities and evidence of political interference, and I've written about that in this article here. And the federal report indicates abuse of power by a senior Swiss official with financial ties to Israel, and this is her on the screen now, the main image of my story. The report concludes that the ban quote, deviated from standard practice and was, quote, unsatisfactory. And it confirms for the first time that this woman, Nicoletta de la Valle, who was then the director of FEDPOL, the Federal Police Agency of Switzerland, was directly involved in the affair, and the report labels her actions, quote, particularly problematic. The investigation was carried out by the Control Commission of the Council of States, the parliamentary body that audits Swiss federal agencies. Now, Ali had, of course, legally entered the country, intending to participate in a series of public events, and where he planned to condemn Israel's genocide in Gaza. And as you've just heard there, he was effectively abducted off the streets without warning by plainclothes Swiss police. And this was condemned by lots of people, by Amnesty International, by two UN special rapporteurs, Irene Khan and Francesca Albanese, the latter of whom said, quote, the climate surrounding freedom of speech in Europe is becoming increasingly toxic, and we should all be concerned. Now, as I later revealed in another article for the Electronic Intifada, Ali was banned from entry only after he had already entered Switzerland. The Zurich cantonal police had initially requested that the federal police agency issue the ban before Ali entered. But the federal police, at first, they denied the request, and they concluded that Ali's views were protected by freedom of expression and that he presented no security threat to Switzerland. And that decision was made after the federal police agency consulted with the intelligence service and the immigration authorities, official documents revealed. Now, the new report that came out in Switzerland last week reveals that it was that woman, Nicoletta, the director of the federal police agency at the time, Nicoletta de la Valle, who overruled the lawful decision of her own police agency and imposed the ban. The report also states that she did this based on no new evidence and in violation of standard procedures. The report explains that, quote, following a call from the commander of the Zurich cantonal police, de la Valle verbally instructed the head of the competent division to issue an entry ban after all. And she provided no new information. The Commission's report says that this shouldn't be allowed to happen again, and also criticises the Federal Police Agency for its lack of adequate record keeping. Now, what's been quite controversial in the Swiss press is her, de la Valle's post-police role in an Israeli investment firm called 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜, and it's been the subject of quite a fair bit of scrutiny in the Swiss media recently. Now, according to 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜's website, the company prioritizes investment in defense and security sectors, which is, of course, euphemisms for the military and intelligence industries. Its senior partners, and I think we've got a screenshot of this, include the former Israeli Major General 𝐄𝐥𝐜 𝐈𝐧𝐢, who has repeatedly advocated the collective punishment and starvation of civilians in Gaza. At the outset of the Gaza genocide in 2023, he called for the creation of, quote, a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and for the Strip to quote, become a place where no human being can exist. And of course, he was behind the infamous so-called General's Plan, which was used to expel hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from northern Gaza. One of the company's co-founders is Amir Weitman, a Swiss-Israeli member of Benjamin Netanyahu's ruling Likud party. He himself it seems like he certainly seems to spend a decent amount of time in Switzerland, but he also lives in an illegal Israeli settlement in occupied East Jerusalem. He considers the entire population of Gaza, quote, scum, and says that he wants to expel them all. And he's also demanded Israel, quote, flatten the Gaza Strip. He was asked by a Swiss-German newspaper to comment on all this, and he doubled down on his genocidal statements, claiming that, quote, the entire Gaza Strip is a legitimate military target. Now, following growing criticism in the Swiss press last month, Nicoletta Della Valle's name was removed from the company's website. You can still actually see a screenshot on the Wayback Machine at archive.org. I was trying to get a screenshot of it for this segment, but the Wayback Machine is down at the moment due to a technical issue, but I'm sure it'll be back soon. You can find the screenshot of her up there at a certain point. But at the moment, her name has been removed from the website, but it's unclear whether she's actually resigned from the company or not, or if they're just trying to keep a low profile. The Swiss-German newspaper, which exposed her, reported last month that, quote, the company is currently raising $100 million for a new fund with which it intends to invest in the Israeli arms industry. The investment group is thus directly profiting from the war in Gaza. And Ali, you can speak for yourself again, but you've already posted on X a statement saying that the report indicated serious irregularities and abuses of power in the actions taken against me. And we've got one final screenshot, which is that Ali is currently challenging his arrest in Swiss courts, and his lawyers are taking additional action based on the report.
What I can add to that, Asa, and thank you for that and for writing that article, is that based on what is revealed in this in this parliamentary investigation, this is the first time we know for sure that Nicoletta Della Valle was personally involved in this. And as you point out, she had a long record of being very pro-Israel publicly, but then went on to have this direct financial relationship with this military-linked investment firm. So based on this new evidence, we have filed additional motions in the court cases we currently have ongoing, and we will probably be taking additional legal action. I won't give too much more detail about that, but I'll remind people that we do have several cases currently in the Swiss courts challenging my detention, challenging the entry ban, challenging the expulsion order, and also with respect to particular individuals who may have been involved in these actions, and more is likely to follow. And I just want to say that for me, the purpose of pursuing legal action in this way is accountability. Switzerland is a signatory to the European Convention on Human Rights. So any precedents we're able to set in Swiss law will have Europe-wide application, where, as we know, free speech is under assault to suppress criticism of Israel, primarily for the service of Israel. We see that in the UK, we see that in Germany, we see that in France and Switzerland, all over. And so I think it's important to put up a fight and to hold these people accountable so that they know that these attacks, whether it's on me or any other journalist or activist or person, that they are not cost-free, that they will at least think twice about it. And of course, to bring out the truth, to expose the dirty relationships and abuses of power that are going on behind the scenes for the sake of Israel so that it can commit genocide.